Okay, good morning, everybody, and hello from Mooloolaba Beach. My name is Ash, and as you know, most of you know, I'll always start the day with a couple of cups of coffee. This is number 3, and a few push-ups because it's 7 a.m. here this morning in Australia. So today, the plan is for us to cover 2 things. One, how to link your goals and OKRs to execution. And then also we're going to talk about the power of content hierarchies and do some examples live on the webinar. So I'll pick a pace that's good for folks that are new and also folks that are already familiar with the app. So you might have to speed up or slow down the video if you're watching this later, but hopefully the live session you'll be able to keep up. And then if you look down in the bottom in the Q&A section, you can ask questions as you go, and I'll just keep an eye on that, and I'll try to answer those and work it into what we're doing. So let's just dive straight in, shall we? So I'll close this out. This is what we're coming back to, and I'll go to the strategy page. And so the first topic was to talk about how to connect strategy to goals, strategic goals to OKRs, to the actual execution taking place, right? That's the key. If you can connect those, it actually gets done and you're able to achieve what you set out to achieve. So that's the absolute key, and that's what we'll cover mostly in this webinar. So I'm inside stratapp, and you can see here under the direction page, you can lay out that 10-year view per Roger Martin for your team or your company. And then we've got the Simon Sinek's construct under here. So you can turn these pages on and off so you don't have to use them. And then the usual vision, mission, values can go under there. And then here we're on you can do it org-wide or for your team, and then just look at it from your point of view. This is what we call the strategy tree. So the strategy tree is where you lay out the plan for your team or group, function, business unit, or the whole company. You lay it out with a sort of 1 to 3 year perspective. And best practice is to have 3 to 6 things at each level in the tree. So you can see this example just has 1 goal, but typically you'd have 3 to 6 goals for the period, and that would cascade down to 3 to 6 under each one in the tree. So we're looking at the strategy tree, and in this case, we've got the goal and it breaks down to these sub goals. And remember, this is like a 1 to 3 year horizon. And you'll notice also that it's written in verb noun. So that practice, I won't go through the history. There's a lot of thinking behind that. So really easy for people to absorb the content. So launch an online seafood brand. So this business wants to move into consumer direct sales of seafood. And to do that, they've worked out, well, they've got to set up the digital assets, build the supply chain. And first of all, they want to validate the demand, at least in APAC, and start off with doing that. So that's how you build out the strategy tree. So if I jump out of here and I go to edit mode, so this is how you present it, right? So whether it's for your team or your company, there's a list view as well. You can go into detail. And if I go into edit mode, which is just behind probably where this video is on the screen. And if I go into edit mode, you'll see there, I can now just in one click start adding things to the tree. So if I wanted to add, say, a child below this goal to set up the supply chain, what have I written here? So build our own packaging plant in Darwin, for example. So that now appears below, and I can add another one as well, which will sit next to that. So negotiate an APAC wide air freight deal. Okay, and you can see that now sits here. And if I hit this button here, it's going to reorganize the tree for me. And I'm in edit mode, right? Evidenced by the pen at the top right, probably hidden by the video of me drinking coffee. Okay, so, and then you can play around with this. So let's say, oh man, you wanted to put this up under there, for example. So you could just break the connection. It's automatically going to go to the top, and then you could redraw a line from the parent to the child. And then you can see now where to go over there, right? So it's, I can zoom out. So the negotiate the air freight deal is now sitting up here. It doesn't make sense. It really belongs under the supply chain. So that's just showing you it's really easy to add, to edit, and so forth. And there's some permissions built in here, so you need to be part of something to do it. So you'll learn that as you go. But anyway, the point of this webinar is to focus on the thinking, not so much the app. So let me just join this back to there. That's all good. And now I can, if I go back to presentation mode, and I just go back here to present, you can see those two we added now are sitting below set up the supply chain. So the power of stratapp is, apart from the ease of this, so it's live and interactive. So the idea is you're getting away from static documents. So I've grown up with that, the last 20 years. So every year you produce an annual plan, and then it's out of date within 4 to 6 weeks, as you'd know, and then it's forgotten by the end of the quarter, and then you kind of trying to retrofit what you've done to sort of say that, yeah, we executed the plan. So the next generation, of course, of leadership is that it's always moving and it's always interactive, and you should be able to see it and participate. And you want to involve as many people in the company as possible. And if you embrace that thinking from Elon Musk, Ray Dalio, Simon Sinek, right, the more you can connect the whole organization to what you're trying to achieve, the more motivated people will be. They're motivated by context, not just pats on the back or ticking off a task list, right? It's really, why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? How does my role fit into the bigger picture? That's how you really capture the hearts and minds of everyone. So by doing this live and interactive and keeping it updated and just letting it evolve and getting the culture used to the strategy evolving as you go, which is the real world, it's not static. And it needs to change as you learn from market competitors, your own capabilities, how fast you can go, etc., and problems you run into, COVID and resource constraints and so forth. So at any point, at any level in this tree, in one click, you can dive straight into everything that's happening on that particular, in this case, sub-goal. So everything to do with validating demand in APAC is here at your fingertips. So this is like a workspace that's created automatically for you just on this one sub goal. And you can see, you can go through and have a look at the tasks that are in place. You can see all the conversations. You'll notice the social has structure, it's nested, and meetings, everything's in one place, and you can just quickly access it and contribute and lead by example, crowdsource, involve people, and so forth. We'll come back to some of that content hierarchy stuff, which was the second point of the webinar today. So let's just focus now. The first point is, how do we connect the goals to the objectives to the execution? So let's stay on topic there. So you can see under this goal, we've got an objective for the quarter to validate the demand for frozen fish. So overall, that's where we're heading. And then this quarter, we want to validate the demand for frozen fish. So let's add another objective. So I've just clicked add objective, and what did I have here? So let's go validate Japanese demand for sushi grade fresh fish. So, and I'll just set that for the same period. You can start in February if you like, and then just run it through to the end of the quarter. There we go, create that objective. So now we've got two objectives. So the tree is where we're heading overall. Let me just jump out and recap. So this is where we're heading as a team or a function or a business unit, whatever scope you're running here. So you're laying out this plan, it's evolving, it's alive and interactive. People can participate, you can make them members, you can have different levels of involvement and of course receiving notifications. And now we're going, right, that's where we're heading for the next 1 to 3 years. This quarter, there's two things we want to do. So if I jump over here and I click on the OKRs tab, and I'll just collapse it, you go this quarter, there are those two, well, there's three here, but there are those two we could see that we're hanging off that sub-goal card that we were looking at before. So these two have as their source the sub-goal card. So if I open up the sushi grade fresh fish, you'll see that's where it came from, the sub-goal to validate the demand in APAC. So what was I going to show you next here? So just to recap on OKRs, so acronyms. So OKRs stands for Objectives and Key Results. It was a methodology created by Andy Grove at Intel back in the 60s, actually, and made famous years later by John Doerr. You might have read the book or seen it, Measure What Matters. And then made famous by Google, who rolled it out since the 90s and have used it every quarter since. And I think there's something like 10,000 companies, including our own, around the world using this methodology. And with that, we're including Netflix, Amazon, Adobe, Twitter, Kleiner Perkins. So it's all different sectors and industries. So it's all about going, right, okay, we know where we're heading, right? How do we focus down what we're going to do this quarter? Usually quarterly. Startups and smaller companies, small teams might run them monthly, but most organizations do it quarterly. And if you, the other side of the methodology is the key results. So crafting the objective, which is tangible and clear and sets out what you're trying to achieve. The other side of it is how are we going to measure whether you've achieved it or not. So that also gives a focus to the execution, really important. And that's probably a big difference to going from management by objectives to this methodology. They're similar, but the difference here is first of all, the construct. So you're setting these tangible targets. And in the app here, these can cascade down many levels. So you could roll things by geography, etc., and give different owners at different levels, particularly sort of revenue type targets. But it's all about saying, hey, if we're saying we want to validate demand, what does that mean? What will validation mean? What's the key result to measure so we know that we've validated demand before we go to the next stage and rolling out our strategy? So that's objectives and key results, and these all roll up. So if I just go down here and say, hey, this one, if it was going a little bit better, you'll see it goes green above, just rolls up. Likewise, this is orange, that's green relative. So if we just go, or if I was to move this back to red, okay, so you're still in the, because it's got a weighting of 2, so the top one's still green. So you can have relative weightings and so forth. Really easy to use. And you'll notice just really the whole app, really, there's no end user training. So even in our own organization, we've got people in 5 countries, and we just throw them into the app and start working. There's no training or onboarding. They can see the layout. Folks are used to the tech. What's different in stratapp, which people like, it's not a hindrance, is the fact that it's all in one place, so that you're not going to different apps to do all these different things. For example, risk management or to access workboards and so forth. It's all in one place, and people obviously pick up on that really quickly. So yeah, you just need to have someone just sort of lay out the basic structure to give people a bit of context, and they're off and running, creating their own tasks and workboards and doing whatever needs to be done. So that's strategy so the goals 1 to 3 years, and then you're setting the OKRs off the strategy tree. So a tip here is, when I first started learning this thinking, I thought, it would all just cascade down to goals at the bottom. Objectives and key results at the bottom. And in practice, that's not the case. And we see obviously hundreds and hundreds of strategies and plans from clients every year, those that give us access and work with us on the coaching side. So I've had the chance to see all different things from all different sectors. And what really happens in practice is you're adding an objective. You might focus a little bit on this quarter. The example we did was this one, or you might do a little bit here. So you end up adding objectives based on what you think the priorities are. It's not cascading all the way down to the bottom. So the logical tree is setting the framework, and then you've got a second decision to make. Go, right, this quarter, what are we going to do? And it's typically capability building, right? Most of these things, apart from revenue, generally OKRs are around what new capabilities are we building, the strategic. It's not the day-to-day operational stuff. So you can read a lot online, including our website. The difference between OKRs and KPIs. There's many, but the main one is, the OKRs are, if it's KPIs, measuring how the business is going. So a typical company, you might have 100, 150, 200 KPIs in terms of, so that's how you know how it's going. And then OKRs are, what are we going to work on? What are we going to change? What do we need to improve? And often informed by the KPIs. So if sales are going down, KPI, or if customer satisfaction is going down, or supply chain costs are going up, you'll look at that and go, okay, this quarter, we need to interject and build this new capability. And you would set an objective and key results underneath that. And at the end of the quarter, it's gone. And hence the construct of the app, right? You're really looking at it by time periods. And then you can go back through the history, but really next quarter, it's a whole new clean slate. What are we going to achieve this quarter if you're doing it quarterly? Okay, so let's look at connecting the execution now. So if I open this up, so this is the objective that was here already, right? So below the goal, we've set this sort of frozen fish objective for the quarter, and now everything is at your fingertips for this objective for the quarter. So again, this is another workspace. And the reason it looks the same as the other one I showed you off the tree is so that folks in your team and company, they're not having a different user experience. So every time they open up something, it's the same, right? Socials on the right, you've got some navigation here. These rarely change. This will change a little bit based on what it is you've opened. So if it's a risk card, you'll see mitigations, probability impact, some different things, but the user experience is the same. So that's how you can just throw folks into the app. They're up and running really quickly because they're not learning 11 or 12 different user experiences. It's the same each thing they open. So now we're in execution. So we went from the strategy tree to this objective hanging off the strategy tree. And now everything this quarter that's going on this objective is at your fingertips. All the tasks, workboards, if there are any, there you go, set up that website, key results, how they're going, so you don't have to go to the dashboard, it's all here as well. All the meetings, links, files, everything to do with what's happening this quarter is here at your fingertips. And that's the magic. That's the magic and the purpose of stratapp, right? So the strategy tree can evolve, and there's workspaces there that allow you to evolve and keep on top of each thing in the strategy tree. And then you're setting the objectives for the quarter off the tree where it suits you. So there's no rules. It's just based on what's going to suit your team or your company. And then in each objective, there's a workspace. So you've got everything at your fingertips. So really what happens is decision-making goes much faster. You've got clarity, you've got the history, the conversations are nested, you've got approvals and decisions you can go back to, and the app gives you really fast ways to go back to those and catch up day to day on what you need to, all at your fingertips. So super powerful. And, in our view, it's the whole structure saves about a day a week for everyone, maybe a little bit more for middle management, team leaders, the folks that are sort of balancing where we're heading and what we're trying to implement. But certainly for everyone on the team, it's just so much quicker. And there's a whole lot of features around how you can drop in and check on things and only focus on what you've been tagged to or the decisions or things you need to action. So it's all sort of served up to you in an efficient way. But you're more aware of things because you're getting general notifications based on what you're a member of. Workspaces for each thing. So the power of the app, of course, it's all pre-configured, so you don't have to create all of these objects inside. So everything is pre-configured in the app out of the box. So most clients will have about an hour or so to play around with it, maybe a coaching session or two with us, which is free. But within 3 days, the whole team's moving quickly and it's starting to change. And similar to us, the tree changes too, right? You have different ideas on how to build the tree as your business evolves and people get more into it and the skill set starts to increase. You just start to get better and better at how this works. Okay, so one last point I had on my notes here. So there is security built into the app, right? So we're trying to embrace Ray Dalio, radical transparency, Simon Sinek, Elon Musk, Ricardo Semler, so all the thought leaders, and there's many more, and you can read more on our website, are really pushing this theme. Roger Martin, Richard Rummel, they're all pushing this theme that the more you can involve your people in the strategy and the direction, and they can see what other people are working on, and it's actually even crazier in stratapp. You've got a live org chart, or crazy, it's great. Live org chart, you can double click on someone, it'll gather what they're working on, and you can see the relationships. You say, hey, what are these two working on? And it'll bring it all up, right? That's why Mary's not getting back to me. She's busy on all these things with this guy called Ash. So what you can see here, though, is subject to security. So the default in the app is restricted. So if I open this up, you'll see here it's restricted. So basically, you need to be part of the organization to see it, but anyone can participate in the conversation here. So you don't need to add folks as a member to quickly involve them in a decision or an action or something to do or to task them off this card. But you can also start to lock it down. So I could change this to confidential, secret, or top secret. Top secret meaning there's no guest users and only the owner who created it can add members and remove them, right? So you get different levels. So, you know, not everything in a company can be open and transparent all of the time. That's just common sense. So and it won't appear as a gray box. It just won't appear at all, right? So if you don't have permission to see it, it just won't be there. So that works all through the app. You'll be able to control what folks have access to. But we really encourage to keep things as open as possible. But I am going to show you on this work, as per the agenda, how to run a top secret workboard and an example of where that's really practical and needed. Something you're not going to put across the whole company unless you are Ricardo Semler, perhaps. Righto, so that's the first part of the webinar. Let me just check in on any questions. No, all good. So hopefully hopefully the pace is okay. Not too fast, not too slow. Right, so let me just have a drink of coffee. So the second part of the webinar is to show you some tricks inside the app using content hierarchies and some unique features. So the first one we'll take a look at is org design. So I've just gone to, let me just stop my video for this bit so you can see the navigation. So that was the edit mode there, by the way. You might not have been able to see in and out, just those buttons. It's super easy. So I've clicked on my avatar, I've gone down to settings, and I'm going to teams. So in stratapp, as most of you will know already, your org design can be built into the app, right? So custom inside the app. So we've got functions, verticals, horizontals, and geography. We also have levels, which feeds off the live org chart. So functions are typically your department. So every team and every company, no matter what size, will usually have functions and geography. If you're a little bit bigger, you'll have verticals. And if you're really big, you may even have horizontals. So consulting, outsourcing, R&D. So these are typically all shared services, right? Bigger companies will have, you know, logistics, IT, finance, might be a shared service across the whole group. And then verticals are typically if you've got teams who are serving different market verticals. So the benefit of this, and it amazes me that this is new, right, in tech, but it is. And as far as I know, we're the only company that's done it, and I'm sure the others will follow quickly. So the advantage of this is you don't have to type people's names to collaborate, right? So if you're having a meeting, hey, I want everyone in sales who's in Germany to be on this meeting, boom, or this workboard, or aware of this risk, or to participate in this goal. In stratapp, it takes you 2 seconds to do that. And the beauty of it is you don't miss anyone out, which is always, you know, you feel bad. So once you get, you know, over 30, 40, 50 people, you're running something really quick. You always have that issue of just forgetting to involve someone or copy them in, and, you know, they don't feel great. So really quick, don't have to type names, and it powers the whole collaboration inside the app. But it also powers all the filters, right? So you can, I'll just go to the OKR page. This My Teams one is automatically picking up the teams that I belong to that have objectives this quarter. And then you can see, hey, I only own this one here. One too many, huh? Need to delegate it out, as my team are well aware. So it powers the whole app from tasks to everything you're looking at. Including the strategy. So you can build your strategy tree just for your marketing team using those org design attributes. And I'll just show you where those can be done on the cards. So you can see here, you can do it on the card. So when you create something, you can say, right, this belongs to APAC because it's this, and functionally we're going to call it marketing and related to marketing and sales because we're trying to validate demand, and it's not relevant to any of these. And then if I create something below this, it automatically inherits those properties. This is a new feature in stratapp. It used to inherit your own. That's how we were thinking it originally, but now it inherits whatever teams that was your own, but now it inherits the parent, which is far more efficient. So let's test that, right? So, let's create a grading chart for fish. And we can leave the members on there. And if I open that up, it should have the same scope, APAC, marketing sales. You got it. So it's automatic flowing down. You can create things here anywhere here under related. You can also do it in the social, right? So I could have done that same thing here in the context of the conversation. So let's imagine someone has asked, hey, where shall we start? And they've asked a question, and then I could reply here with an idea, risk, all sorts of, ask another question, great tactic, or I could actually could have created that task, right? So create a grading chart for fish that is sushi grade. Again, so I'll add a due date to do that tomorrow. And then you'll see that's going to appear on my private workspace in a moment. I'll show you that. So nested structure, and and you can also create task lists and ideas inside the social. So that's something, first of all, I just wanted to show you the creating a task. So if I open this up, I'll just go to my workspace first, actually. So let's just go to workspace upcoming. You can see this is my private workspace, and everything I'm working on across anything inside stratapp will appear on this workspace. You can see, there you go, this task is due on the 3rd. And if I say how I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it today. This is my private space. So how I'm organizing, my day, no one else can see this private space. However, if I open this up, all the members that were members of the parent before were automatically added here because I left on copy members. So even though this is on my private workspace, I'm still collaborating and it belongs to the source. So the power of this is you don't have to go crawling through the app to find all your tasks. So if you go to 6 meetings in a day and you've got a couple of project workboards running, what you own and is due is automatically going to appear here. And you can also just go through the app and send stuff to your upcoming, right? So call Mark Knopfler. I did speak to that guy once. It's an embarrassing story. He called, I answered, and I didn't know who he was, and asked him to spell his name. Can you believe it? And I was a Dire Straits fan. Just no idea. Really embarrassing. And never got to meet him after that. So send to upcoming, right? So this is, I could just say, hey, I want to send that to Friday. And if I go back to my workspace, there it is, call Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits on Friday. And don't make him spell his name. So I wanted to show you creating tasks in the conversation thread. Let's just jump out actually, and we'll go back to, we're on this objective. So let me just go jump out altogether. So we're on the objectives page. This is what we're going to achieve this quarter. We created this validate the sushi grade fresh fish. We've got this task here, and you can see I created that within the conversation, and I could have also created an idea, right? So another response to this question could be, we should look at what Naturo are doing in Japan with avocado supply chain. Interesting company, right? So there you go. So this, I'll just spread that out. So this here now, task idea. Remember I said you can do task idea or risk. This is now in the context of the conversations. So really powerful. So this has created its own thing. And if I open this up, we can now, it's got a workspace of its own where we can rate the idea, invite other people to review it, submit a review, and participate in the ideation, the innovation around this idea. And to go one step further, you could go to the ideation page actually and create a challenge. So you could actually just go here to challenges and create a challenge to crowdsource ideas so people can submit ideas against the challenge. So you might say, hey, anyone got ideas on how we can tackle the Japanese market and build a presence within 6 months? And internally and externally, you could throw that out and people can submit ideas. against your challenge. So I didn't know that concept's been around since 2000, forever. We've built it not only as a module inside the app, we've gone a step further and made it part of the conversation. So let's just have a closer look at all of these options, right? So I can agree, disagree, question, task, risk, and idea. Actually create your own cards, those three, so you can work on them and manage them, and they appear in different parts of the app, so you can quickly manage them. Because you can imagine, as you're working here, there's a lot of content starts to get created, so you need to be able to look across it and quickly get to it. Decisions, approvals, I can request an approval, request a decision. Team are always heading me up with this, Ash, please respond. I get that one all the time. So it's super good, right? So what do you think? I'll be getting something like that. And, they're really saying, hey, please respond to this. Whether you think we should do it. So you got nested going on there. And if I want to identify risk, I could also do that here. So I'll just click risk. And let's say the price competition on supply from China and Korea into Japan, right? It's quite significant. So it would make it difficult for us to crack into this sushi grade market. So again, now this has created its own card. You've got the context. It belongs to this, which belongs to that, which belongs to the thing above it. So content hierarchies. And if I open this up, again, really similar UX. It's just a few things a little bit different to suit this, which in this case is a risk card. So I can say, hey, probability high, impacts medium, we might be able to get around it. And I could add a whole lot of mitigations here, right? Branding, packaging, positioning, exclusive distribution, whatever. And then below that, we could launch all the things we need to do to execute on this risk, right? We can even create a challenge, set up a whole workboard, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the second part of the app, right? Of this webinar, was to show you the power of content hierarchies and how they're just naturally created. So let's just say, price competition on supply in China and Korea, that is an issue. And what we want to do is just set up here underneath this, we can set up a whole project workboard around map out sushi prices on supply from nearby countries. And now we've got a whole project workboard sitting below that risk where we can manage what we're going to do about that risk. So again, you're not leaving the app, it's just all in one place. I'll come back and show you a workboard in a minute because we want to do that top secret example workboard. So which we'll do next actually. So we've done inheriting. When I said before we inherit the scopes, we also now inherit the security. So I recognize some of the names on this call who had submitted that as a suggestion last year. So we went live with that in January, I think, or December, just before Christmas. So if you've, so the best case example there is you might have a confidential sub goal here, set up the supply chain, and that might be really confidential because for some reason you don't want everyone in the organization to be able to see it. You're having a meeting about that. Well, you want the meeting to be confidential as well, obviously, right? So the scopes, or the org internal terminology, the org teams per your org design will cascade automatically onto the meeting note, as will the security. Okay, so let's have a look at doing a top secret workboard, and I'm actually going to show you ours as an example. So this is, I'm just going out of incognito mode into normal mode. So this is from our stratapp org. It's one of our workboards. And you can see here, we've made it top secret and the members are just Marty and I. So only the co-founders have access to this workboard. And I don't mind if you screenshot this, you might want to build something similar for your company. So you typically would have here your CFO and your executive team, and across, resolutions, all of these things you can see that are really important. Everything to do with corporate, we've got in one place, all the governance of the company. But where it gets interesting is creating hierarchies. So I won't click on here because you'll start seeing all the conversations and content. That's the way the app works, right? Everything's at your fingertips. So, but you can see here, when we do our monthly accounts, all the conversations around, the status and who's doing what, and reconciliations and checking, and this month someone's on leave for a couple of days, so that's all on there. And then you can build hierarchies below that. So I'm just going to show you how easy that is to do. So let's just go back out, and I'll just create. Used to be there. It's not. Actually, someone on this call actually is responsible for suggesting that's not going to be there anymore. So I'll go here to the workboards page, and I'm just going to create a corporate governance workboard. And the you might have a bunch of stuff to do with the board, a bunch of stuff to do with financials, and what do we have? IP was another one. Strategic partners, I think I had on there. So I had a card for each strategic partner. So we have Microsoft. So we work with Microsoft a lot. Everything to do with Microsoft is below there, right? So quickly accessible. So let's just go here. I'm going to create one for doing the monthly accounts. And if I open this up now, so I'll just go back one step. So we're just going to add, let's pretend, let's just add Marty, actually. So we'll do the same as we have on the real org. So Marty and I are members, the only members. I'll go back to summary. I'm going to make this top secret. And so now Marty and I are the only people that can see this workboard. And so we'll be able to run this company, and we could add, the board of directors or whoever else we think is relevant. Now, below the monthly accounts, I need to work with the accountants and the bookkeepers, right? And whoever else you work with, right? So what I can do here, I could do it on the right, but I'll just do it here, is set up, so I'll call this monthly accounts and bookkeeper collaboration. So that's the terminology we use, right? Just to manage all of this. And I can elect whether I want to copy Marty as well. He's the only other member, so I'll leave him on there. And I can also create another one here for accountant collaboration. So try to collaborate more with the bookkeeper, costs less than the accountant who's not on this webinar. So if I open this up now, this task is sitting below the workboard. And if I make it secret, I can now add guest users. Still no one else in the company can see it, but I can now add guest users to this. So I could come over here and just type in the email address and first name, last name of our bookkeeper. And I'll give a plug. We use D&V in the Philippines, brilliant company. Most of them are ex-auditors out of EY and KPMG, recruited under an ex-CFO from Shell who set up D&V in the Philippines, just A grade. So obviously in Australia, we need accounting done locally for compliance, but all the operational finance is done. So we've got 2 members as guests who are added onto that card I showed you before. And that's how I collaborate with them. So we know anything on email, no email, 0 email in the company. And as soon as something starts coming on email, we quickly find a place to put it in stratapp and get them get that person collaborating with us or team with us inside stratapp. So now everything going on with this bookkeeper, Marty will be able to see it, and all the accounts get loaded, and we're working away here, and it belongs to this task on our workboard. So just to recap, I can't say it enough because folks seem to get confused because it's a new concept, right? So this is the workboard, and I can hang that off the strategy tree if I want to, or have it standalone. In this case, it is standalone. There's no source. I've got a bunch of tasks here. And then if I open this up, below that, I can create content and add people internal and external to the organization who cannot see the workboard. If you're a bigger company and I don't know, you're running a head office function and you need lots of folks around different business units to have input, you can just add them to related tasks below and create different workspaces to work with different people who don't need to be part of the bigger picture or the private stuff that's happening at the top. And there's no limit here, right? You can keep going down further. So if I open this one up again and, you know, and then I might create a thread here. So January close, and then, you know, all of our conversation about the January close will be here. And I'll do another one for February and so forth. And again, all of this structure applies. So I can create tasks, ask for decisions, requests, etc. Right? So it's all the same experience. And again, when we add people to these spaces, no training, they're just straight in using it. And as a guest, they can only see what you've added them to. So I should have made that point before. Your guest users aren't going to be crawling through and looking at your performance or seeing your strategy and what you're working on. They can only see what you've added them. So workboard governance, they can't even see the workboard. Actually, the person can't even see. So we'll go down to these related tasks here. This person here, if I open it up, I can see this belongs to monthly accounts. The guest user can't. So they don't even see the title context. It's all locked down. So guest users only see what you've added them to, fast and efficient, and they get email notifications as well, of course. And they tend to leave it on, whereas member users will turn the email notifications off straight away and download the mobile app. It's far more efficient. Okay, so that's how we run top secret content. And you could even then create tasks for yourself, right? So you can come here and say, review the 0 recons that are open for January. It's something I'll have to do this week. And I might just get to, I might do it on Friday. Don't mind doing finance on a Friday. How sad. Something about it I like. But there you go. And then this is going to appear on my private workspace, right? So if I go over to my workspace, and there it is. After I call Mark Knopfler at Dire Straits and redeem myself, I can either before or after, let's do it before, I can go and do those reconciliations that are open in January. So if you're like me, you can see this starts to fill up really quickly because you've got other people tasking you as well as yourself. And you might, you know, get to a day. So let's say, you know, this is, you know what that is on Friday. You recognize that. But this other stuff, you think, wow, I don't actually even remember that meeting or where it came from. And in one click, you're into everything that's going on with it, but you can also see what it belongs to. So you got the context. So you can just work your way up. And that was the other agenda item for today, wasn't it? So how do I work my way up to see all of the context for content? So you can say, hey, yeah, that's right. It's all come from this. This is where we were. And I remember these conversations. And now I've got everything at my fingertips to do with that objective. Therefore, I know that there's the reason I'm doing this task on my workspace today. Let me just close out. The reason I'm doing this today is because ultimately it belongs to this objective we've got for the quarter. So back to that theme, right? Connecting strategic goals to the objectives, to all the work taking place through the meetings, risks, ideas, whatever the context is, popping down onto your upcoming page. Super powerful, saving everyone a lot of time. All the things I said earlier, right? Clarity, decision-making, no confusion. You get to catch things pretty early. So I don't have enough time to crawl through everything and you keep an eye on it, but I just watch the main things. And you quickly can jump in and say, hey, I think we need to do this. Like I missed something last week, should have done more testing on something. But you know, it's all at your fingertips and it's all organized. This is very different to chat channels, and it's probably the last thing I'll show you on this call. So if I just jump out of here and go to social work, you'll see the app organizes all of the conversations taking place across your team or company around the work. So because the right-hand side social is on each thing, that creates social around work. So this is a big shift from chat channels or MS Teams, you know, channels, chat channels in Slack or Teams in Team. You can still set up groups, do the same thing in the app here, or maintain those you've got in the other app. And what I recommend you do there is, and you might even use WhatsApp, that's fine. So what you should do then is just keep that to sort of social, spontaneous, non-work conversations, right? So, hey, I'm running late. Does anyone want to go for a drink tomorrow? Can you please stand in for me here? The sort of random stuff that you might not want to fill the app up with. But try to adopt the discipline that don't send a WhatsApp message or an MS Teams message about this objective, because that's going to slow everyone down, including yourself, over time. And what you want to do is just put it where it belongs, right? Really have that discipline. Go, hey, I have got a question here. I'm just going to add it where it belongs, which is here. That is going to accelerate your company and team overnight, because then all of the conversations are organized around the work, and you can start filtering by type and time period, and you'll get really, really good at using this. And this is the default page, obviously, when you come into stratapp. So this is where I can just go down and just keep an eye on things. And I can click all and browse all conversations in the company, which are organized around the work. All conversations on cards and workboards that I can see based on security. So obviously the security model applies here too. So if it's confidential or higher and I'm not a member, I won't be able to obviously go browsing through the conversations. But again, the idea is you try and keep as many things restricted as possible, and then you've got the input and the leadership and collaboration at all levels where you need it. So, and I don't have to open the card to engage here, right? So I can start a new thread, or I could respond here. I think, let's start with sushi. Just putting a random comment, but you can see then, that's going to appear in the nested conversation. If you don't know what this is or what they're talking about, obviously you just open it up and you got the wider context, where it belongs, everything else going on at your fingertips, and then you can participate in the conversation. So yeah, it's one of those things you have to experience to believe it. And it's the impact will just be enormous, and it should all start within 3 days, and then after 2 weeks, it's just totally different how your team's operating, both internally, externally, with partners, suppliers, consultants, advisors, and so forth. Okay, so just checking my node sheet. I think I've shown you everything there. Perhaps just if I jump out, can we just let me just close out to, I'll just go to the risk page. Last thing was just to show that I tip all source types. There's that risk. This is where you can manage risks, right? So ideas get captured automatically up here, so you can manage them through a funnel, and likewise risks. You don't have to go crawling through the history, and you've got risks then can be captured at a team level, can be captured on projects, can be captured on tasks, anything, right? So you've got all the context and sources and so forth. More and more functionality coming around this that's going to be richer and richer. But I promised not to talk about the future on this call. I thought I would stick to the agenda. So hopefully that's been useful for you. So what did we cover? We covered strategy to objectives to execution, linking it all together. And then the second part of the webinar, we covered using content hierarchies so that everything's got a place, and how you can use right-hand side social to create tasks, risks, and ideas as their own cards. The conversations are nested. You've got all the structure there. And try not to use chat channels, Teams, WhatsApp for work. Put the work where it belongs. It'll accelerate decision-making. It'll really make the execution faster. And I forgot to mention also onboarding. Instead of this, 12, 20 weeks to get up to speed, when you come into something like what I've just shown you, and you've got all the history, the tree logic, the objectives, the org chart, who's working on what, it's so quick to be up to speed to add value, right? So the onboarding should be like 1, 2, 3 days to be able to add value across the company. Instead of this, I need 3 months to learn the business, get to know my team. Get to know your team, you go back through the history, read all the conversations, all the decisions, who's worked on what, how it's gone, all the performance right there in front of you. So onboarding a team leader, replacing someone, we're going to replace someone today, actually, and we've got a workboard, all the history's there, all the projects, tasks, credentials, everything's organized. We just slot the person in, they'll be effective on day one. So by tonight, I expect that person to be producing just as much as the person we need to replace in that role. You know, it's next gen leadership, it's next gen tech, and yeah, reach out to us. The coaching's free, really good coaches, and yeah, we're just here to support and wish you all the best. And hopefully that webinar was good value for you today. Goodbye.